Man, let me tell you something. There comes a time when the world tries to size you up, measure your worth, and see if you got what it takes to stand tall in front of giants. For years, folks looked at India like it was just another player on the field, somebody sitting in the back, waiting for permission to speak, waiting for approval to move, waiting for a seat at the table. But what the world didn't see, what it overlooked, what it ignored, was the grind, the discipline, the faith, and the resilience of a nation that refused to stay small. See, the thing about India is this: you can't count it out, you can't downplay it, and you sure can't push it into a corner anymore. That's the reason why no leader, no power, no authority out there can afford to get tough with India. It's not just politics, it's not just economics, it's about respect. And respect is something you can't buy, you can't bully, and you can't steal. You earn it. And India has earned it the hard way. Now, people think toughness is about flexing muscles, throwing out threats, or slapping sanctions on the table like they're the biggest player in the room. But toughness without leverage is just noise. And when you look at India right now, you realize this ain't the country you can intimidate with pressure or punish with isolation. Because India built something far more powerful than military strength or economic growth. It built independence, independence of thought, independence of action, and independence of spirit. And that's what makes this moment so big. See, the real move isn't about who's got the biggest stick. The real move is about who can stand on their own 2 feet when the rest of the world is trying to pull strings. And that's exactly why no one can afford to play tough with India now. Think about it. India is sitting on one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Not second, not third. It's right up there climbing. Every single year, numbers going up, growth going higher, middle class getting stronger, technology booming like fireworks in the night sky. And when you're dealing with a country like that, you can't just walk up and say, do it my way, or else. Because or else doesn't work anymore. Or else used to mean something when a country was weak, when it was dependent, when it didn't have choices. But now India's got options. You turn your back, India looks east. You close one door, India builds its own door. You try to block the path, India carves another one. That's the level of determination we're talking about here. And when a nation reaches that kind of mindset, baby, ain't no pressure that can break it. And let's not forget this: India is no longer playing defense. It's playing offense. It's not waiting for somebody to hand it power. It's taking it. You see it in the military, you see it in space, you see it in technology, you see it in global trade. India is not just participating in the global conversation, it's leading it. It's putting points on the board. And let me tell you, when somebody keeps scoring, when they keep proving themselves, when they keep showing up with results, you can't treat them like a rookie anymore. You can't talk down to them. You can't treat them like they're lucky to be in the room. Because the truth is, the room ain't even complete without them. Now, let me break it down like this. You know how in sports, sometimes a team is underestimated. They the underdog, everybody think they just happy to be there. And then that team starts winning. 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, suddenly they in the finals. Suddenly they the ones everybody gotta watch. Suddenly everybody gotta respect them. That's India right now. And the folks who thought they could just push India around, they realizing real quick, you can't play that game no more. Because this ain't the same India they were dealing with 20, 30 years ago. This is a new India, a bold India, a confident India. And confidence is the one thing you can't strip away once it's locked in. Now, some people confuse independence with arrogance. But let me clear this up. India ain't arrogant, it's aware of its power, aware of its potential, aware of its leverage. and leverage changes the game. See, when you got leverage, folks don't negotiate with you the same way. They don't come to the table with demands, they come with respect. And if they don't, they walk away with losses. That's exactly why no one can afford to put India in a corner, because the losses would be too big. Too many industries depend on India. Too many economies are tied to India. Too many people are watching India rise. You can't just cut yourself off from that and think you're still winning. It don't work like that. And let's talk about alliances. Oh man, India knows how to play that game. See, alliances ain't about who's strongest. It's about who's smart. India figured out a long time ago that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You spread them out. You build partnerships with Russia, with the US, with Europe, with the Middle East, with Asia, with Africa. You diversify your relationships the same way a wise man diversifies his investments. That way, if one partner turns cold, you still got 9 others backing you. If one door closes, 5 more open. And that's the genius of India's global play. It ain't leaning on one crutch. It's got a whole support system built around it. And that's what makes it untouchable. And I gotta say this, people still underestimate the Indian people. Man, let me tell you something. The Indian people are the backbone of this rise. We're talking about some of the most hardworking, innovative, determined people on the planet. Folks who leave home with nothing, go out into the world and build empires. Folks who keep their culture strong, but also embrace change. Folks who believe in education, who believe in family, who believe in pushing forward no matter what. And when you got a population like that behind you, you don't crumble under pressure. You rise from it. You don't bow to threats. You answer them with progress. And here's the other thing. India ain't trying to be anybody else. It's not trying to copy. It's not trying to fit into somebody else's model. It's building its own. That's power right there. Because when you're original, when you're authentic, when you stand firm in who you are, nobody can pull you out of place. Nobody can dictate your moves. Nobody can put you in a box. That's why attempts to pressure India don't work. They bounce right off. Because India ain't playing someone else's game. It's writing its own rules. Now, let me paint this picture for you. Imagine a man walking into a room full of billionaires. He ain't wearing their kind of suit. He ain't talking their kind of talk. But he sits down at that table and everybody goes quiet. Why? Because they know his worth. They know his power. They know his moves are changing the game. That's India right now. It don't have to look like the rest. It don't have to sound like the rest. Its presence alone changes the whole conversation. That's influence. That's why toughness don't work anymore. You can't be tough with the one holding the keys to the next door. You can't be tough with the one writing the new chapter. And here's the real truth. The old world order is gone. The days when 1 or 2 countries could dictate the rules for everybody else are over. This is a multipolar world now, and India is one of the poles. That means it ain't about following. It's about leading alongside others. That means it ain't about taking instructions. It's about setting agendas. And when you reach that level, no leader, no government, no foreign power can pull rank on you anymore. They got to sit down and listen. You know what I love about India? It's not afraid of pressure. Man, some countries fold under sanctions. They break under threats. They panic under criticism. But India thrives under pressure. Pressure makes it sharper, stronger, faster. Pressure makes it more creative. Pressure forces it to innovate. You push India down, it builds a ladder. You try to block India's path, it makes a highway. That's a mindset you can't defeat. And that's exactly why you can't be tough on India anymore. Because toughness just fuels the fire. And don't forget this, India ain't playing catch up anymore. It's setting the pace. Look at tech, look at pharmaceuticals, look at defense, look at space. Other countries are watching India and saying, we need to keep up. That's a reversal right there. When you reach the point where folks are measuring themselves against you, that's when you know you crossed into a new league. And in this league, you don't get treated like the little guy. You get treated like a heavyweight. So here's the bottom line. India ain't to be bullied, pressured, or underestimated anymore. The world knows it. Allies know it. Rivals know it. And anybody still thinking they can play the old game of toughness with India is living in the past. Because this new India, it don't bend easy, it don't break quick, and it don't need approval. It moves with purpose, it moves with power, and it moves with pride. And that right there is why nobody can afford to be tough on India anymore. Let me tell you something about power, about respect, about what it really means to rise. For a long time, people thought power came from being invited into the room. They thought the real move was waiting for someone else to pull out a chair, waiting for someone else to say, yeah, you can sit here now, you've earned your spot. That's how the game was set up for decades. If you wanted to play big, you had to play by somebody else's rules, sit at somebody else's table, eat what they served you, accept what they allowed you to have. And for years, India was treated like that, like a guest. Invited sometimes, excluded other times, always waiting for a nod from the so-called big powers. But see, here's where the shift happened. India stopped waiting. India stopped asking. India stopped knocking on the door like it was begging to come in. Because when you know your worth, when you know what you bring, when you know the value of your contribution, you don't wait for somebody else to pull out the chair. You build the table yourself. And that's the real shift the world is seeing right now. India no longer asks for a seat at the table. It sets the table. Think about that image for a moment. When you set the table, you decide the shape of it. You decide how many chairs. You decide what's being served. You decide the atmosphere. You decide who's invited and who ain't. That's a whole different kind of authority. It's one thing to be a guest. It's another thing entirely to be the host. And India is stepping into that role, not just regionally, not just quietly, but globally, boldly, confidently. And when you're the host, people come to you with respect because they know you're the one who put the whole thing together. Now, how did India get there? It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen because somebody handed it over. It happened because of decades of grinding, decades of proving, decades of refusing to quit. It happened because India was willing to start small, to struggle, to take the long road. It happened because India understood that tables built on shortcuts collapse fast, but tables built on sweat, sacrifice, and strategy last for generations. See, it ain't just about economics or politics. It's about mindset. And India has built a mindset that says, we don't just belong here, we define here. That's why this shift is so powerful. Because when you stop looking for validation and you start moving with conviction, people can't ignore you anymore. You see it everywhere now. Look at technology. For years, the world treated India like the back office, outsourcing support centers, call centers. But look at it now. India ain't just answering phones. India is designing the future. From digital payments to artificial intelligence to space exploration, India is setting the pace. Other nations are looking over and saying, hold up, we didn't expect this. But that's because they were looking at India through an old lens. They were looking at a country they thought would always play catch up. But when you're setting the table, you're not following trends. You're creating them. And that's what's happening now. And let's be real, markets don't lie. 1 billion plus people, a rising middle class, a hunger for growth. This is a consumer base no global business can afford to ignore. You can try to play tough. You can try to act like you're holding the power. But at the end of the day, if you want your products to move, if you want your business to grow, you got to come to India. And when you come to India, you don't come with arrogance. You don't come with ultimatums. You come with respect. Because the host don't change for the guest adjusts to the host. And that right there is why this shift is irreversible. India has reached a point where it decides the terms of engagement. And it's not just economics, it's diplomacy too. India used to be seen as a swing vote, somebody courted only when convenient. But now it's the one organizing dialogues, leading initiatives, building coalitions. From the Indo-Pacific to BRICS to G20, India isn't waiting to be invited, it's making the invitation. And the world is showing up. That's power. That's influence. And it all comes back to that one truth. India is setting the table. Let me break it down in a way everybody understands. Imagine a family gathering. There's always somebody in the family who sets the table, organizes the seating, says grace, serves the food. That person, that's the one who runs the show. Everybody else, no matter how loud, no matter how important they think they are, they wait on that person to say, come on, let's eat. That's India right now in the global family. It don't matter how loud others try to get. It don't matter how much noise they make. The real authority belongs to the one who set the table. And that authority can't be taken. It can only be respected. And I love how India did it too. Not by trying to mimic somebody else's path. Not by copying somebody else's recipe, but by being authentic. Because let me tell you, authenticity is the